And yes, I'm in. And actually, you might be able to hear the rolling of thunder in the background there. But yes, time to talk about week 26. First thing is, 26 is half of 52. Today's the 4th of April, which means I've been gone for over half a year. It's absolutely flown by. I was looking back at some of the blogs and just thinking, fuck, I've done a lot. But yeah, I can't really believe it's been half a year, really. But skipping past that kind of sentimentality, I've got two things I want to talk about. It doesn't seem like that long since I did one of these, but I was kind of getting a bit behind. And as I left the end of the last blog, I was literally leaving Ecuador. For those of you that didn't see that, I did mention bench, and basically I'm in Colombia now, and there's two border crossings from Ecuador to Colombia. One which basically like 99% of people take, which for reasons which will become apparent. But what I'd heard from many people over the last kind of week or two is that it was just like really kind of crazy queues at the border, because of the situation in Venezuela at the moment, so many Venezuelans are leaving, like thousands a day, and they're all kind of spreading through Colombia and then down through into Ecuador and Peru and other places in Central America. So although that's an easy border crossing to take, some people have been queuing for like 8-9 hours just at the border, let alone either side of that, depending where you're coming from. There's probably, for example, Quito, where I was coming from, was 6 or 7 hours just to get to the border. So I'd heard from Nadia, who was a girl who was working in the hostel I was staying at in Quito, that there was another route that we could take through a completely different border crossing, which was completely fine and didn't really have much of a queues. I tried to do a bit of research into it. Apparently a few years ago it had been like a bit of a dangerous one, but it was kind of safe to do now. So I put my trust in that, and we headed up to the border. It was a 7-hour journey from Quito to Lago Agrio, where the plan was then to cross the border and then take a 3-hour bus to a town called Mocoa. Didn't really pan out like that. The bus was a bit late coming, and then we took some time to get there, and basically arrived at Lago Agrio at about 5 o'clock. Now, on the journey to that bus, we'd spoken to the conductor and asked him about crossing the border, and he was like, no, not that border. You wouldn't want to take that. It's way too dangerous. And I was like, oh, really? He goes, well, yeah, I'm Colombian, and I've never taken the border. So my alarm bells are ringing a bit at this point. We then get to the border town, which is about 20 minutes drive away from the actual border, to be told that the border's closing at 6, and it's definitely not safe to go there anywhere near after dark. So took the advice of three people and stayed in the town, which was definitely the right thing to do. So stayed into the delightful town of Lago Agrio. Me and Nadia might have been the only European people in the whole town, but it was it was okay. I don't have many photos of this to document this kind of part of the journey, but you'll just have to stick with me for the story. So we're already a day into the journey. We stayed in a dubious hostel and got up super early the next morning, like woke up at 6:30, left the hostel at 7 to get to the border. Got to the border for 8 AM when it was supposed to be opening. It wasn't open. We were the first people there. They told us it would open in 20 minutes. We didn't bother to stand in the queue because there wasn't one, at which point like 25 Venezuelan people arrived and stood in front of us in the queue. So what should have taken 2 minutes to get through then took us over an hour waiting behind all these people as they really slowly kind of stamped them all into to Ecuador, because it was literally one queue whether you were coming whichever direction you were going. Anyway, whilst in the queue, at the back of the queue, we met a geezer, a Colombian guy who lived in Ecuador, who was travelling from the border to Bogota, which is like really far. It's like a two-day drive, like maybe, God knows how long, 16, 17-hour drive. He was with his son, 16-year-old son, and basically we asked him if he was going our way, and he was like, yeah, sure, you better get in. So long story short, we hitched a ride with this guy, I can't even remember his name, like a 6-hour ride to Pitalito, which we'd been planning on taking a taxi and then 2 buses from. In hindsight, I can't believe we were going to try and do this crossing. I don't know how we would have done it. It didn't seem like there was any buses. We didn't see any taxis as we were going across. We got in the car, and to say that this guy put his foot down would be the biggest understatement of any blog that I've recorded so far. He was absolutely bombing it. Like, bombing around the corner, screeching. After like an hour, he basically turned around and he was like, yeah, like, I'm going really fast here because it's a very dangerous area and we need to get out of here. So I'm like, fucking, what am I even doing here? Latterly, when I arrived, when we obviously made it fine, arrived at the hostel and told a couple of other people we've gone that way. They're like, yeah, that's okay, but it is a red zone, which is like one of the areas that the guerrillas are still in. My naivety about what's safe and what's not has kind of worked out okay because we kind of got there fast. But long story short, when we arrived at our hostel and we sort of told people that this guy was like driving fast, everyone has sort of said, yeah, but like that's just what Colombians are like it's just the drive away. No, we were driving for 6 hours and only one car overtook us, and he basically then got into a race with this guy trying to take him past. I've only got one video, so this has just been a chatting story, but you can literally listen to the sound. You can hear the tyres screeching as he's going round the corners on this. Me and Nadia were sitting in the back like piecing ourselves laughing through, I guess through kind of fear, to be honest, but it was the most nuts car journey I've ever taken in my life. But the plus side is it still took us 6 hours to get to our destination, so fuck knows how long it would have taken if we would have actually just tried to do it on the buses and changed and what have you. Anyway, look, this is the video, listen to this. I mean, anyway, travelling, innit? I'll draw a line under that part of the story because I've not got anything else to clip in, photos or anything, but that was a quite mental journey. Anyway, arrived in the town of San Agustin, first stop in Colombia, cool to be in a new country. San Agustin is sort of a small but quite... the people say it's touristy. It didn't strike me as that touristy, but the reason that people go there is that there's some archaeological parks in the vicinity where basically they found all of these crazy statues that were left over from a civilization that had died way before the Spanish arrived, and actually they dated some of the stones and they thought they were 2,000 years old, but actually there's some recent evidence which says that maybe they're like 6,000 years old. I took loads of little videos and stuff. I'm going to just drop some stuff in here. You can see what these things look like. So that was kind of cool on the first day to walk around the archaeological park, and it's just nuts knowing that no one really knows what these things are about, but there's loads of them there. The second day that I was in San Agustin, no, not the second day I did something. The first day after that mental ride I just chilled out, but we went around to some more of these places. There were some more crazy tombs on like a jeep ride with a guy. So yeah, there was some more really kind of... It's really interesting, and like... I find it interesting that they just don't really know that much about it. And normally when you go to these places, there's loads of people giving you information. And there were guides there, but they don't know very much about them. Also on the final day in San Agustin, we were taken to a couple of amazing waterfalls, like huge, some of the biggest ones in South America. Check out some of this stuff because this is really cool. So that is the second largest waterfall in either Colombia or South America. I'm not quite sure what they were saying, but either way, it is huge. hope you can get the perspective of that, because it's miles away and it's massive. So basically, spent like 4 nights in San Agustin. It was just at the end of Holy Week, which is Easter week, which is a way bigger deal in South America than it is in England. No chocolate, but like lots of church stuff and parades in the streets, and just basically people having a good time. So overall, really good first stop in Colombia. I had a great time there. I stayed in a hostel with a really good bunch of people. Like one night, actually. A Dutch guy called Adrian basically said, I'm going to cook food for a few people in the hostel, and everyone was like, I'm in, and he ended up cooking like a massive meal for 20 people just in the little hostel kitchen. So I've already met a whole heap of great people in this trip. This is probably more than any of my blogs since I started chopping in videos, which from the start is going to just be me talking with some of those statues in. So I'm going to leave that there. If anyone wants some more details, by all means message me. Message me anyway, let me know how you're getting on. As always, drop me a message, and I hope you're doing well, hope you had a nice Easter, etc, and yeah, big love. I've done this with the hood on, I've just realised, but cool. Lots of love, and see you next week. Mwah. This is the smallest part of the biggest river in Colombia. Goes down to 2 meters. And there are some tourists.